Hey, how's it going, guys? Amon OP 21 here, and back with another deck profile for you all. So, of course, as you see here, what I have to present to you guys is my Dark Irregulars deck, particularly my Amon Dark Irregulars deck for Post-Generation Booster Set 3. So, yeah, it's been a quite long while since Dark Irregulars has gotten some ideal support to really, make them viable again for the competitive Vanguard. And although I do still consider them as a rogue deck, it's really an amazing rogue deck for post set 3 just because of how powerful their boss stride Gilderay is as far as win condition goes. I mean, his skill is definitely what Dark Irregular players have been dreaming of for a while. So really glad that Dark Irregulars finally have something in their arsenal like this, just to really give them a lot more win potential in their games. And most importantly, the Mon's follower archetype in general has gotten some nice, good key support cards to make them a lot more consistent as well, which is something that kind of hindered Dark Irregulars a bit. So really happy with the support Dark Irregulars has been getting. Now, just to clear up a few things real quick for you guys. Yes, this deck has been on sale on my last sale video like a while back, but due to some complications with a certain individual, I wasn't able to complete a sale with him and couldn't really get back with some other players that showed interest in the deck. But yeah, honestly, I'm pretty glad I didn't sell it just because I would have missed out on the opportunity on how strong Dark Irregulars can be, and this deck is definitely more fun than ever. Especially the testing I've been doing with it. I actually took this to my locals recently and was able to make top 4. Of course, top 4 we split, so we didn't really play out from there. But yeah, the deck showed a lot of consistency for me and very powerful. So yeah, I've been showing a decent amount of success with it so far in the short time I've been playing with it. But yeah, guys, deck's a lot of fun, and glad I have this deck because I think everything's been going up in price for Dark Irregulars as of late. So really glad I still have this deck. So yes, without further ado, let's actually get started with the deck profile. Enough of me rambling about random things. So, starters, we have Amon's follower, Barmaid Grace. So, honestly, I can say that finally Dark Irregulars have a supreme starter for themselves. Because all the other starters that Dark Irregulars always has been kind of mediocre at best. But this card, in general, is amazing for Dark Irregulars. So, what it does is you count blast 1, rest this card, and you select one Amon unit on your field, whether it's Vanguard or Rearguard, and Soul Charge 2, and that selected unit gains the ability of, it gets plus 1,000 for every card in Soul. So, what's amazing about this card is, one, it's not restricted to Generation Break 1 or any type of limitations, being that it's an archetype-based card, which is really amazing. So yeah, basically every turn, if I have Counterblast that I can use, which I usually do, I'm always going to be using this card. And as the game starts to progress even further and your soul starts to build up even larger, the boost that she can give your units can definitely exceed the amount that a regular, grade 1 can actually do. Plus, it brings a lot of value to a lot of your field setups because, now granted, a lot of times, depending on how I open or if my grade 1's attacking first, sometimes I am forced to boost my Vanguard to make sure I hit a number, but a lot of times, preferably, I like to put it in the corner rearguard circle for multiple reasons, especially for your win condition setup that you want to use with Gilderay, which I'll show you guys a little later. But basically, since now we're in stride era, your Vanguard's always going to be hitting a pretty decent number as long as you're striding, 26 or above usually. So you don't really have to worry about boosting the Vanguard, your Vanguard. So that's like one card you got to save in your hand for that reason. So with this, you can easily use this to maybe pump up any unboosted rearguards that you have to maybe hit some, at least a magic number, like a standard number, or even a higher tier number, depending, like I said, the stage of the game and how much soul you've been building up. So, being able to effectively have your unboosted units hit for ideal numbers without having to commit that one extra card from your hand to, prioritize boosting that unit to make sure you hit a decent number holds a lot of value for Dark Irregulars because, as you guys should already know, with Dark Irregulars, they don't really have an ideal way to build a hand advantage, even though it's slightly better than before, but nonetheless, they're still not known to build a lot of hand advantage. So getting a lot of value from your units without committing too much to the field is what makes this starter amazing, and it always makes me sad when I face those control-y type deck matchups that always blow this up by like turn 2. So, but yeah, in games I'm able to have this on board like the whole game. Like, you know, it just speaks wonders for this deck. Now, next for grade 3s, we are going to be playing with the Amon's leader Astaroth, the Legion for the deck. So, really fantastic card. And I honestly say for Stride era, I say Legions are probably the best cards to play alongside of Strides, just because Legions give you more play options, so you don't just rely on Strides. That's why I usually try to prefer Legions in a lot of my Stride-based decks if possible, especially for something as good as Astaroth, honestly. So what he does is, while he is in Legion, which of course the mate is the original Amon, he gains +1 crit for every 10 cards in your soul. And also, what makes him really amazing, of course, is his secondary ability of, excuse me, if you have another unit with Amon in your middle column, and one of your opponent's rear guard is sent to the drop zone through the effect of one of your cards, you can use Soul Charge 3. So obviously, if he's Legion with Amon, he does share the same ability as Amon here, which, you know, your Legion Vanguard does gain +1000 for each card in Soul, and you do get that secondary Amon ability of Counterblast 1, take a Dark Irregular's rear guard, put it in Soul, and your opponent chooses a rear guard to retire. So they both here. So you have the ability to pretty much trigger itself, which is great. I love cards that can self-enable themselves, and obviously works wonders with Doreen as well, just to create big, really huge numbers. So a lot of times the way I usually try to play this card is I usually want to Stride first if I can. Like the first chance I can get, I want to Stride first, and then depending what the game state is, the damage count my opponent's at, or my soul count, seeing that Guild Array does require 15 soul, I can just Legion, and then, you know, I can pressure my opponent, you know, with that extra crit and power that that Astaroth gets. But most importantly, it allows me to get like 4 soul charges, so it can definitely accelerate my soul charging in case maybe I'm not able to get to 15 quick enough. So really amazing for those reasons. So it's a very amazing card for this deck. There's even a few games where he was able to carry some of my games, you know, for victory for me without having to actually use Guild Array. So he's definitely a fantastic card in the deck. And of course, you know, speaking of the Astaroth, you have 3 Amon mates and the 1 tech Amon Reverse. So Amon Reverse definitely saved me in a few matchups, particularly the aggro matchups, Aquaforce, Nova Grapplers. The 1 Amon Reverse is kind of funny because in the locals I played this deck in, I faced an Aquaforce deck, and both games I actually opened an Amon Reverse, and I was able to successfully cross-ride. And that's the main reason why you play this card, is because, you know, being able to cross-ride can definitely save you a lot of games, especially with how a lot of decks a lot of decks are usually equipped and designed to hit like 21k lines a lot of times with their rear guards, but they're not necessarily designed to deal with cross rides as consistently. So, you know, this will definitely save you a lot defensively in a lot of your games, as it did in my Aquaforce matchup. So I definitely gave a lot of credit to Amon Reverse for helping me win those games when I faced an Aquaforce player in locals. So it's good, and his secondary ability is, you know, still decent, you know. Depending on game state, I know in one situation where my opponent, I was like at 4 damage pretty quickly, and, you know, my opponent was still stuck on 2 damage just because I didn't open an ideal board. I opened really slowly. I didn't have any rear guards to really call and apply pressure and get some damage out, so I was behind in damage. So Amon Reverse was able to get me there by getting in, you know, that 2 damage I needed, so my opponent could be at 4, so I can go in for the kill with Guild Array. So he could definitely come in clutch in those situations, but having the ability to have that cross ride, it's really good. It almost makes me want to play another one of these, but, you know, to be honest, I don't want to run less than 3 Amons, just because with the amount of soul charging you do, I don't want to risk soul charging all my mates. So yeah, so that's my 3 grade 3s. A lot of explaining to do with that lineup, I feel, just because. And next, of course, you have the 4 Hell's Draw. When it's placed on rear guard, soul charge 2. If you have an Amon Vanguard, definitely got to play 4 of those. And then we have the 4 of the brand new Amon unit for G set 3. Amon's follower, Hell's Nail. Card's really amazing. Just basically, when this card is in rear guard, when she attacks your opponent's Vanguard, use Special Counter Blast and Amon. and you soul charge 3. So, you know, being able to soul charge 3 pretty much guaranteed is fantastic, and it's what makes this deck, you know, a lot more consistent to really get into that 15 soul mark that you really need for Gilderay. So, really fantastic card. Definitely, I'd say it's a must play at 4. And then you have 2 Ron Jeanlin. So there was another card, of course, that came out for Dark Regular for set 3. His name is Squallmaker. I don't have one handy to show you guys, but I was testing him out, and I really don't like him. Just because, one, he has Generation Break 1, so he is a little bit slow. And 2, the fact that he is not a Amon's follower kind of hindered my deck a bit. Just because turn 2, you don't really have any ideal, you know, turn 2 rides. So it's important just to make sure that all your grade 2s are Amon's followers, just for the reason that, you know, Hell's Nail has to be in rear guard, but Hell's Draw and your Hell's Deal, which is the grade 1 version of her, need to be rear guard only, and you have to have an Amon Vanguard. So, you know, I want to be able to keep the tempo up if I'm able to, right from the start, which is important for this deck, because, you know, because what happens is I'll ride the Squallmaker, which is a non-Amon Amon follower. So then it makes me not want to call like any of my other, you know, Hell's card or Amon's card, with the exception of Nail, because I'm not able to use their skills yet. So that kind of makes me, you know, wait an extra turn just to call them so I can use their skills. So I feel like that's a waste. So I feel like it's a lot more consistent just to run a full Amon's follower lineup for your grade 2s. So I decided to just go with the, honestly, these 2 slots can be really whatever you want, as long as it's a Amon's follower. I wish they had a 10k base grade 2, honestly, but 12k attackers are good, just because, you know, you obviously can make some pretty strong numbers early in the game, you know, to go for the, you know, to make like a 90k pressure column against your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard. And, you know, just 12k attacker is always consistent for you. Just either having a good standalone beater, or just maybe, it could definitely get you there, maybe if you're trying to assemble some key numbers. So that's pretty much a simple grade 2 lineup there. Then grade 1s, you have, of course, my favorite card, 4 Doreen the Thruster. Honestly, you probably don't even need to run 4, especially if you guys don't have any Doreen the Thrusters. You don't need to get 4. I play 4 because I feel privileged I have 4, and I want to play the 4. Just because, you know, not only that Doreen is a really amazing card to put behind Gilderay to really make those stupid numbers, which I remember the other night I hit like 102,000 in my center, which is kind of ridiculous, but yeah, I was able to do that pretty easily with this combination. But having the Doreens early in combination with your Hells cards just allows you to hit some nice big pressure columns, you know, early in the game to really force out some damage early on, put a lot of pressure on your opponent. A lot of times too, especially if I have too many in hand, I'll like, you know, you call one in front and just, you know, pump it up and just use it as an attacker, and it becomes a damage sponge, because then my opponents end up just wasting attacks just to get rid of her because they're so scared of her, as they should be. So yeah, this card, I mean, you guys already know it's like one of my favorite cards of all time. I'm never going to drop it below 4. The next you have the new Flag Breaker, which is the G Perfect Guards, which I think is a must for the deck, just because unflipping damage, recycling counterblast is very essential for this deck. Because as I explained with the starter, you know, every turn I'm using counterblast, you know, just because, you know, if I have nothing else that uses counterblast, I'm always going to be using my starter. So you definitely want to just, you know, keep your resources going with these G Perfect Guards. So I think they're a must to play in the deck for that reason. And then, of course, you have the must-have 4 of Hell's Deal. Placed on rear guard, soul charge 2, very important card. And then you have your 3 Succubus of Pure Love. Your grade 1 stride enabler for the deck. So really not much to explain there. Very important just to stride, obviously. So pretty simple, straightforward. Now for triggers, excuse me guys, we have your amazing crit here in Amon's follower, Grasam. I'm really bad at names, guys, but yeah, this card's amazing, and you know, I actually gave credit to him for helping me out in my Kagero matchup I played in my local tourney. But what he does is when this card is put into the soul due to effect of one of your cards, which includes soul charging or your Amon skill, you have special counterblast an Amon card, and your opponent chooses a rear guard and retire it. So obviously if you use them in combination with the regular Amon, your opponent, of course, retires 1 rear guard for his skill, but they also will be forced to retire another card with his skill. So with the cost of like 1 card, 2 counterblast, you can kill 2 cards, which is nice. And there are times where, like, you know, I was able to soul charge and you know, pick off some more rear guards. So, you know, it's really good just to help extend some of your plays. with Amon to get some more value out of his skill. So yeah, it's really fantastic card. But the artwork's actually pretty cool. Look how mean he looks. Yeah. But yes, next you have Dark Knight of Nightmare Land. It's pretty expensive crit trigger, I heard. But yeah, just obviously really essential. Just gives you a soul charge and pumps up a unit by 3. So really good. Then you have 4 Hysteric Shirleys. If it wasn't for this card existing, I would probably play 12 crit in the deck. But yeah, but she's just really amazing. Just put her in soul charge 1, gets you 2 soul charges. Can definitely get you there at times. She definitely comes in clutch for you. There's like a few games where, you know, I like top deck into her when I had 13 cards in soul, so I was able to use Gilderay in time to close out the game. So definitely an amazing card and a must-have in the deck. Then you have your 4 heal trigger and Amon's Follower. I usually don't like lollies, but it's an Amon's Follower, so you gotta play it for that reason. So simple trigger lineup. Now moving on to the strides, like the main part of the deck. So first we have your 3 Love Tempest Lyra. Lyra, yes, that's her name. I'm bad with names, guys. So yeah, she's a really fantastic card for this deck. With her ability of when she hits your opponent's Vanguard, you soul charge 2, and if you have 6 or more cards in soul, you draw a card. The fact that she lets you draw a card is so amazing. Just because, like I said, guys, Dark Irregulars really lacked any type of draw power in the deck, or ways just to kind of, you know, gain some extra cards for themselves to draw into options. So she's really amazing for that. And, you know, the fact is that obviously most people are aware that, you know, they don't want to give Dark Irregulars any extra draw power. She does bring a lot of pressure, just forcing out some key defensive resources for your opponents if they really don't want this to hit. So yeah, it's a really fantastic card, which I play 3. And I do play the one of Amon's Talon, the Fighters Collection Amon Stride. So when you so if he's stridden over an Amon, if you have an Amon Heart, you counterblast 1, and you choose 2 rear guards with Amon in its card name, and they get plus 3,000 for every 5 cards in soul. So ideally, if you have 10 cards in soul, which is probably the ideal situation, you'll have plus 6 to 2 units, and then your Vanguard does gain plus the same amount of power. So I only play 1 of this card just because I hardly use it, but depending on game state, there are situations where, like, you know, my opponent may not block my first stride of Lyra. Maybe I'm able to get a pretty ideal board going, and I'm able to get a lot of early damage into my opponent, but yet I don't have the 15 soul needed for Gilderay because it's kind of a little bit early in the game still. I'll just go straight into this card and just kind of just make another push on my opponent, just continue the pressure with them. But honestly, you could run 2 of them, but I never found a situation where I used 2 of them at all. Although there was a situation where I was close to using 3 of these, which is why I just kept this at 3. But you know, I only use this card like once in a while, and it's usually just one time. I never had a situation where I use this twice, because by then I should be finishing my opponent with Gilderay. Now, speaking of Gilderay, you have 4 of this nasty card himself. So, like I said earlier, this is what Dark Irregulars has been dreaming of for a long while, and I even joked around with my friends that they should make a card like this, you know, for Dark Irregulars, because you know Dark Irregulars needs that surefire win condition. So basically, what this card does is obviously you Persona Flip him from your G zone, and if you have 2 more cards face up in G zone, and you have 10 cards in soul, he gains plus 10. But also, if you have 15 cards or more in soul, he gets the Glory Maelstrom skill of when he attacks, your opponent cannot attack with grade 1 or higher, and he gains an extra crit. And excuse me, guys, he gains the extra crit if you have 2 or more in G zone. So sorry about that, my mistake. But yeah, so this is the win condition Dark Irregulars has been waiting for. So by himself with 15 soul, you're gonna hit for 36 crit too, which is, you know, something that, like, you know, Yggdrasil, you know, trying to kind of like pushes as hard as it can to hit. That's something that Prominence Glare tries to, you know, hit at their best. So being able to hit alone 36 without effort, you know, just having the 15 in soul is amazing. So you can already see the combinations you can really do with this deck to even far exceed that. So the starter, that's where the starter comes in, because keep in mind, guys, just a reminder, when since this is striding over an Amon Vanguard, obviously, he does have Amon's name as part of the heart, so you can use this for the starter. So you can use your starter to target your Stridden Gilderay. And plus the starter says Amon unit, not like rear guard. So, you know, if you have like 20 cards and if you have 15 cards in soul, use the starter for this. You know, that's 51,000 and have it boosted. I mean, you can hit easily 60,000 plus, you know, no problem. And obviously, you know, with Doreen, what I mentioned earlier, the reason why I like to try and put this in my rear guard circle if possible is because I want to leave my Vanguard booster open to put Doreen here. So when I'm ready to really make that push, you know, I can get 2 soul charges off that, make Doreen +6. And then, you know, if I have any more ways to soul charge, that's when I just start, you know, firing away, pump up the Doreen as large as I can, and then just, you know, swing for game with it. So, like I said, guys, like with the combinations I did the other night, I easily exceeded over 100,000, which is, you know, hilarious to do. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much the deck for you all. I know I did a lot of explaining there, making this video like almost 20 minutes long, but what can I say? Dark Irregulars is still one of my favorite clans, and I have a lot of things I'd like to say about them. But as always, guys, don't forget to leave a comment down below with what you thought and everything. And yeah, guys, definitely gonna try and get some matches up here for you all. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you guys next time. Later.